Welcome back. As you can tell by the intro, I was jamming the intro. I'm sorry. Thank you, John from Freedom Malts, for that intro. He did an amazing job. People just send me shit, and I'm like, whoa, okay, cool. Let's do that. But we have none other than the Somm Yoda, Daniel Whittington.
I can fit in the backpack.
I wanted to throw that out there because I thought that would be hilarious. But we have Daniel on, and we're going to talk about some stuff. Who knows what we're going to talk about? Let's just start with the thing. You've been running and gunning lately, haven't you?
Yeah. A lot of changes and a lot of development on things. But yeah,
that's awesome.
All good things. Things.
Awesome. So the first question I want to ask, or it's normally the last, but I want to ask it first. That way I don't forget it, is what whiskey right now are you really jiving on? Like what whiskey is ringing all the bells? Oh, he has it right there. He has it. I knew it. I knew it was going to be that.
The Mirador Eclipse that they just released is just beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And I got to, because there are people who I care about and who care about me, I was able to get some samples of it. And immediately was like, oh, this is great. And then it came out, and then I've gotten to hang out with Jared and him talk about it. And he talked about it at the Texas Whiskey Festival about why he blended it and what it meant to him. And it's just one of the great things that Balcones has released. Easily top 3 that I've ever had from them.
And it's fixing to go out into distribution. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can't wait to get a bottle of that because – I tried to get a sample at the Texas Whiskey Festival, and they were like, "Oh, we're sold out. There's none left. You can go in there." And I went in there, and there was 8,000 people. Because if y'all don't know, we just got off the Texas Whiskey Fest, and it rained out, and everybody was inside. So it was 10,000 whiskey lovers in a building trying to make it work, yelling over each other. It was pandemonium. And then you have Moose from Andalusia running around with whiskey like this. Here, try this. So
hey, check it out.
This is weird shit. Try it. So you get all that. But I've heard only good things about that. The Mirador in itself is amazing, let alone this one. So yeah, where do you want to go? I see you're smoking a cigar as well, so that makes it even.
This is why I set it outside.
Absolutely. And I'm not a smoker myself. I've tried cigars a couple of times, but it's not my thing.
Look,
I don't know if it's just me or...
There's a point in life where if you haven't developed a vice, you probably shouldn't.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Absolutely.
I've got enough vices. I don't need new ones.
Absolutely. So that Mirador, they use a specific, like a different yeast. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, so this one specifically was a mix of like a red and white wine yeast. Like I think they did a classic in one, but then they also did like, I don't think it was a champagne yeast, but yeah, they did multiple yeast strains all at the same time into the fermentation. And as Jared said, having those yeast strains sort of like battle it out for dominance in the fermentation created all of these really interesting flavor profiles. And so you would, if you tried this without knowing, you might think it was a finished cask.
Oh, wow.
But it's so fruity and just, honeyed and berries and that it's just a truly beautiful single malt. Probably in the direction of what would be considered, if you were in Scotland, this would be like a Speyside. But if you try a sip of this, you're going to swear on your grave that it's a finished cask, and it's not.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Okay, so let's start at the beginning a little bit. For those of you listening that are living under a rock and don't know who Daniel is, kind of give us a little bit of a background on you, kind of where you came from, and all that stuff. If you want.
So, man, I always think of The Jerk when people ask the question. Remember that movie?
Yes.
I was born a poor black child. But I spent almost 20 years as a full-time studio and touring musician. Stumbled backwards into running a business school in South Austin called Wizard Academy, which is a business school for entrepreneurs. 2 years into that, running that program, I developed and started the Whiskey Marketing School, which is a whiskey sommelier training program. That was in 2015, so it'll turn crap. It's going to turn 9 years old this fall.
Yes, it is.
And jumping back, I can talk about how I got interested in whiskey, but I started the Whiskey Marketing School. And then right after that, I started a YouTube channel called The Whiskey Vault. Within about 3 months, I was joined by Rex Williams, the son of the founder of Wizard Academy. And together we built Whiskey Vault into the largest YouTube channel at the time for whiskey theme. And then started a for-profit YouTube channel called The Whiskey Tribe, which spawned an internet community, which then spawned a distillery called Crowded Barrel Whiskey Company. We started the world's first crowd-sourced whiskey distillery in Austin, Texas, Crowded Barrel Whiskey. That took me into the whiskey makers community. So I was surrounded by distillers and makers, and not just reps and brands and ambassadors and educators. We partnered to found the Texas Whiskey Association during that time and start the Texas Whiskey Trail, which I served as the third president for, before I stepped down 2 years ago. And then recently in October, stepped out of the distillery and separated from the Whiskey Tribe channel so that Rex and his team could refocus all their energies onto the for-profit Crowded Barrel Whiskey Company and the Whiskey Tribe channel. And I could refocus all my energies onto the non-profit Whiskey Marketing School, Wizard Academy, and the Whiskey Vault channel. And then around that same time, I redesigned the entire Vault channel into what it is now. And here we are.
So I'm going to stop you right there and
that only took me like 3 minutes. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, that was really good, actually. I will tell you this. Like, I have been a follower since, it was Whiskey Biscuits before then, a long time. But like the way I see the vault, and of course, me being a sommelier, I have my ties to one side or the other, which we don't want to play sides as well. But at the same time, like the way that you are doing the vault right now, I personally think, and I think a lot of other people think, it is going in a direction that we want, that the whiskey nerds, if you want to call us the nerds, the whiskey nerds, because it's more storytelling, which is what my podcast and what my thing is all about. It's about telling a story behind a whiskey. Yeah, there's whiskey out there. There's whiskey. Why do I have Wild Turkey 101 on the table right there? Right. Who knows? But
because it's awesome.
Absolutely. But like there's whiskey happening, but there's a story behind every whiskey. And you like to bring not only the story of the whiskey, but like just a random story that comes into it. So that to me is really interesting and something that I don't want to say I strive to because I'm not trying to ride the coattails of anybody else, but like the story behind the whiskey journey. Like I just did an episode that's already released by the time this one's came out, but about the Texas Whiskey Festival and my part of it, seeing Moose and seeing him running through the rain after me and, giving me a big old hug and then like going in there and seeing all the volumes of people when I thought there would be nobody there. I thought it was going to be dead. Like it's raining cats and dogs. Nobody's going to show up. And there was people in droves there. Yeah. You couldn't hear anything. You couldn't say anything. I was trying to talk to distilleries and couldn't do anything. So like telling my story along with telling a little bit of whiskey history and whiskey knowledge and stuff like that. And that's something that you're trying to do on the Vault channel as well now. And that to me, that to me is really cool. Reviews are great. I love doing reviews and I love talking about whiskey and stuff like that. But there's something with a story. So tell us a little bit about the story behind the whiskey, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, we couldn't have built that way. I think what I'm doing now on the Vault channel is a luxury, because if I had started that way, there's no way we would be as big as we are.
Yeah.
So without me and Rex and the contrast, without the combination of nerd and shenanigan, it wouldn't have exploded and grabbed the public imagination. It wouldn't have brought in as many new people and as many novices and interested people. And so I can only do what I'm doing now because we spent 8 years building something that was a little bit more accessible, a little bit more generic public leaning, right? And so I'm under no illusion that the path that the Vault channel has taken now is, I wouldn't argue that it's indulgent, but it's definitely a luxury that I have an embedded audience who gets to decide whether or not they want to stay along for this journey. And but what I love about it is it let me pivot into refocusing the energy into what Wizard Academy and what the Whiskey School teaches.
Right.
And so now the whiskey is an important character, but so is the background and the principles and the story and the ideas that we're talking about. And that makes things magical for me.
Right.
Now they're way more work. It used to take me about an hour's worth of prep to shoot 4 videos.
Oh, wow.
Well, now it takes me about 3 hours to shoot 4 12-minute videos. As far as prep, that's not the shooting time. Right. It takes me 3 hours of preparation and writing and prepping, and then it takes about an hour to shoot 4 episodes. But I love it, and it's been a gift.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the thing. Like, you're not, and I don't think you or Rex or anybody have wanted it to stay stagnant and to stay in one thing. Like, you're constantly wanting to grow, and now you as well are wanting the distillery to grow out of the formula that it is, to where it can reach more people, because the stuff that's coming out of there is really great. Like, I have so many Eleanor bottles up there right now. Like I can't even tell you. I probably have more Eleanor bottles than I do anything else. I'm sorry. But it's one of those things where, like, it doesn't need to just go to the people that are pay to play. It needs to go to people everywhere, you know? And so scaling up and doing that, it takes time and money and energy. And maybe it's the energy that not everybody has, because when you're focused more on other things. Yeah, go ahead.
Growth requires things changing, and change isn't always fun. No, but that's how it works.
Absolutely. And I don't want to harp on this, and that's not why I had you on at all. And let's kind of move away from that a little bit, and let's talk a little bit about, like, okay, so you came from a background of doing music and recording and doing all these things. And from the stories that I've heard from you personally, you were more of a Jameson guy. You would just drink some Jameson and call it good. What got you interested into other whiskeys? Like I know you're a huge Scotch and single malt fan. Yeah. What got you into that? Like
my dad.
Okay.
I was hanging out with my dad on the back deck, and he said, "Hey, you should try this." And he poured me Longmorn 16. And I went, "Holy crap, what is this?" And this is a whole new world of flavors than I've been drinking in Irish whiskeys.
Right.
and that just launched me down the path of single malt Scotch, and I never looked back. It's still my first love, really. Right. I mean, honestly, it's not my first love. Irish whiskey is still my first love, but it's still the one that won me. It's like going from like your high school crush to like the woman you marry.
Absolutely. No, I mean, and it's an evolution, right? Because your palate changes, all of the things change, your life changes, your situation changes, and then it develops into something. And that might be the whole premise of this episode is change. Like be ready for that change. Like obviously those who have been following me for a minute have known that in the past 6-8 months, I've gone through such a change in my personal life and spiritual life and all of these things. And they've been running right along with me. And hopefully I haven't turned too many people away from it. But it's like, it's just one of those things like we're still enjoying whiskey. We're still doing things, but it's different now. Like the way that you look at it is totally different. And after you find a whiskey, and I know whiskey is a thing. It's an inanimate object. It's just a means to an end in the whole thing. But at the same time, it's like it's situational. You're with your dad. That whiskey could have been crap, but at the time, it was the best whiskey you'd ever had. So that's
random blended Scotch or something. But
absolutely.
Yeah. It was I love that palates change. I used to hate rye, and I still don't prefer it. but I've also found some ryes that I'm like, oh, hold on, that's great.
Yes,
I used to kind of like, Speyside, that's the boring stuff. Give me Laphroaig. And then over time, I learned that, like, no, there's some real subtlety and nuance and delicacy to Speyside, and I've found a whole new appreciation for it. I used to really prefer, I don't know, like if I was doing a bourbon, I wanted something kind of hefty and punchy and high proof.
Right.
And then after working in a distillery and professionally blending and doing barrel sampling for a living, and like when I get home, I just crave really low proof whiskey. If I'm going to have a whiskey, like if I come home and I walk to my cabinet and everything I see is 60% plus, I just go, oh, I'm tired. I'm like, where's the Glenlivet? I just want a 40%, like easy drinker. Like, I don't want to struggle with this. It's just, I love those journeys.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things where you're like, there's a time and a place for all of it, right? Like, because you see a lot of people these days, and I'm not poo-pooing anybody out there trying to make their way in the YouTube world or whatever, but they're proof hounds. They go after the proof, or they go after the highly allocated, or like all of this stuff. And it's like, you know what?
What that reminds me of?
Go ahead.
So when I was in production and working with production companies in music, we'd be working with companies who are like providing all the backline and production equipment for a festival stage, or even just touring and on a budget out of a trailer and loading equipment in and out of clubs. You could always spot the noob because they were carrying like 6 things.
Yeah.
Like they looked like a tinker, like with a pack. And like, and then you would look over and see a guy holding 2 things that were equally balanced and just walking in. And you would look at them and you would go, the guy with the 2 things, that's the pro. The guy with like 8 things, that guy's not long for this world. That's a short timer's game right there.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's what it reminds me. The high proof people always think, hey, that's fine. Good on you. Thanks for carrying 8 things. But that's a short timer's game, my friend.
Absolutely. Like there's people that's all after, trying to get every Stag Junior out there and doing all these things. And I'm like, okay, I'm totally fine with some, 95 proof stuff as well. Like we don't have to blow our palate out for 2 drams. It's like, I'd rather have a little bit of we're talking an endurance race here. We're not talking blow everything out the first time. But yeah, no, it's
so
it's
answer me this question: when was your first drink of whiskey?
Oh gosh, okay, that's a good one. Thank you for pointing that out. It was underage, as most people's are. My those of you who know me, my mother was a recovering alcoholic, so it was one of those things where alcohol wasn't really around our house. So it was more. I was later in life, probably 14. I went to my buddy's house. You know, I've heard of people. I live in a German town where they drink beer at like 6 years old. So
okay, look, that's fair. That's
you
fair.
know. So I went to my buddy's house, and they had a small liquor cabinet, which some vodka, some gin, whatever. And I actually pointed out that there was some Crown Royal in there, and we took probably 5 shots of Crown.
Holy crap! At 14 years old?
Yeah, at 14. Because we were doing.
How did you not die?
I don't know. We fell asleep very fast afterwards because we were gonna go do something, right? We were gonna go, vandalize property or burn something or whatever.
God, the whiskey saved us all from that.
Absolutely. And so we were just drinking it, and it tasted like crap, and we were like, and the next thing you know, we were like, I just want to go lay down. And we laid down and passed out in the room, and it was fine. So that was the first time.
Answer me a adjusted question.
Okay.
When's the first time of legal age that you tried a whiskey that you appreciated instead of just threw down?
Okay. Appreciated.
Maybe the one that even caught you off guard.
And I'm going to say this, and it goes back to the Wild Turkey thing. It was Wild Turkey Long Branch, actually, because it was charcoal filtered, so it was a little bit mellow. That was the first whiskey I was able to drink on the rocks without adding soda or adding anything to it. Of course, this has been a number of years ago. And it was during the summer, so I was like, I didn't want to drink it straight because it's hot and whatever. But I put it on a big ice ball, and I would just sit there and I would drink it, and I drank it, and I was like, after that, I was like, okay, that's the thing. So that's it.
That's rock and roll.
Yeah.
What's your first love right now? Categorically,
I am really into American single malt.
Oh yes, well done, sir.
I mean, to be honest, I just had Lost Lantern on, so they.
Adam, did you have both Adam and Nora?
Adam and Nora, absolutely.
Those guys are like God's gift to the whiskey.
Absolutely, and they gave me a sample pack that had all of their. They just released their Midwest line, which by the time this comes out, it'll be out for a minute. But I tried some of the Midwest whiskeys that they had. Some Cedar Ridge. I picked up a bottle of Cedar Ridge, 100% malted wheat whiskey.
Oh yeah.
It blew my mind. It literally blew my mind.
Cedar Ridge is doing amazing things.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
And I can't wait to see what's and the whole Midwest. I have a buddy, Jerm, who made my intro. He's from the Midwest, and he's like, there's Tattersall, there's 45th Parallel, there's Found North, there's all of these places up there that are doing amazing whiskey, and nobody knows about them, And so he sent me a bunch of samples as well. That I need to go through, but it's man, there's only so much time in a day. I can't sit around drinking whiskey all day.
Man,
it's just.
I ran the math on the vault the other day, and it was something like 200 years to finish all the whiskey if you drank at a healthy rate, 2 drams a day.
Right.
So figure a dram is 2 ounces, which is a double, right? But if you drank 2 drams a day and you just started and ended your day with a dram, the math ended up in somewhere between 150 and 200 years to finish all the whiskey in the vault. And I was like, okay, new plan. Start being selective.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, if you need help, I mean, look, we got people to call. It's fine.
Somm, man, you can come in there and help.
Absolutely. But the issue is every time I've been in the vault, and this is inside baseball. every time I go in the vault, I'm like, oh, look, there's wild turkey. Let me grab that. Because you get overwhelmed with the
Dude,
amount
it's like
of
going to the
whiskey.
Cheesecake Factory and trying to order a meal, and you're just like, fuck it, I'll have the Alfredo pasta.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have 200 pages of stuff to look at, and you're like, I always go to like the center point, which is that one that's in the middle that has all the American single malt, like Del Bach and the Colkegan and stuff like that. I always tend to go there because that's kind of where my heart. That's where my home turf is.
Dude, I do the same thing. For every 5 times I'm in the vault, 3 of them I just go back and find something I already know, already love, and just want to bring.
Right. And that's it's a good and a bad thing. When you're getting into whiskey, you want to explore everything. And you see people that have 10,000 whiskeys that they haven't opened and that they don't even know what tastes like and stuff like that. And then you have the ones that have, like finished the bottles and they're like, oh, that was a great bottle. I would buy another, or let's move on to a new whiskey. And that's the thing with the vault. Like you go in there and you just try a different whiskey if you want, or you just go get your old standby that hopefully is still there that somebody has graciously donated. It's really hard. It's really hard to pick.
It's funny. Again, it reminds me of music, which is like, so at my house, at one point I moved offices on campus and I shifted all the whiskey that was in my old office to my house because it was whiskey that was mine, not the Academy's. And all of a sudden I had like 300 bottles in my house. And I was like, oh, this is, at first I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I got a real selection now.
Right.
Within like a month, I was like, this is too much. Like, I don't want to come home to this much. I've got this at work, And so we've slowly been working our way through. My new rule has been like, don't open anything. If it's closed, you're not allowed to open it. You have to drink from what's open. You got to finish this stuff. Okay. But that's still, the math doesn't work. And
Absolutely.
So recently I've been like, man, I just need to go on Nextdoor where no one has any idea who I am or what my background is and be like, who likes whiskey? Come over to my house at 7 p.m. I'm going to kick you out at 10. I'm going to bring out all the whiskey that's open and we're going to figure it out. And just get rid of it. And because what now my dream would be, it's a really loud car. Now my dream would be to come home and just have like a dozen bottles. Just a dozen bottles that cover the spectrum, some things I love, craft, some categorical. And it reminds me of the guitar player journey even the drummer journey I went on, which was, I started as a drummer. I started on a stripped down blues kit, like a 2-piece, 3-piece. And then I got really good and I started touring as a professional, and I went up to like a 7-piece kit with like a rack and cymbals everywhere and percussion. And then within 2 years, I was like legitimately professionally recording all the time. And my kit went all the way back to 3 cymbals and 2 toms. And I it way back down again because that was all that was needed for most of the shows that I was playing. And I'm like, man, this is a life truth, this journey. You have a little, you explore, you explode, and you go, hey, let's simplify.
Absolutely. And again, going through changes, that's kind of the story that we're dealing with here. It's really crazy to see how whiskey is changing, and everybody's talking about how, and I know you're not huge into bourbon. You like bourbon, but you're not huge into it. But like how they're talking that bourbon is going to have a fall here fairly soon because there's only so much bourbon that can be out there in the market. I mean, good Lord, every time you turn a corner, there's a new bourbon distillery out there, or an NDP or whatever you want to call them, and it makes it to where it's like you can only have so much whiskey on the market at one time. Is that correct?
Yeah. I would argue though that I would, and I'm not pushing back on it, but I hear this a lot right now for some reason, specifically this year, I keep hearing this conversation over and over, and I sort of disagree. Now, I think if I define it, we'll find that I actually agree, but I don't like the language. And so I don't think there's going to be a giant whiskey collapse.
Right.
So, okay, let's assume, run the numbers. Let's say 30% of the drinking public drinks whiskey. I have no idea what the number is. I'm just making up a number.
Right.
I don't think between the beginning of 2024 and the end of 2024 or the end of 2025, it's going to go down to 10%. Yeah. I think it's going to stay 30, maybe even grow to like 32, 35. You know what I mean? I think it'll probably increase. Now, on the other side, which is I think what everyone's talking about, the number of producers starting or opening or releasing their first whiskey or massively increasing production is creating more whiskey than that 30 to 35% could possibly consume without creating too much of a backlog on retail shelves.
Right.
So I think retail shelves are going to start simplifying a little bit. That's it, right? So I think you're going to see retail go like, okay, we can't keep expanding the whiskey section of Total Wine from 1 line to 2 lines to 3 lines to 5 lines. It's called Total Wine, not Total Whiskey.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you're going to see retailers go, screw it. There's too much. We're going to simplify to our top sellers. Right.
Right.
When that happens, you're going to see some small producers not be able to sustain and die. You're going to see some small producers consolidate with other producers, and you're going to see big producers cut back on special releases and simplify their lines. But you're also going to see more available sourced whiskey than has ever been on the market before.
Right.
Right? Because all of a sudden, all these producers who close and consolidate and start cutting back on their lines and refocusing are going to have all this overstock. And that's going to be the moment at which blenders and independent bottlers have a new foothold. Because right now, independent bottlers and blenders, we make a call to a craft distillery, and they're like, I'm not going to give you any whiskey. I can barely keep up with the orders with Total Wine and specs, right? But someday, those guys are going to be like, hey, I would love to sell you 10 barrels.
Right.
Right? And so is there going to be a consolidation, and are we going to lose some beloved craft distilleries? Yes. No question.
Yes. Is
there going to be a whiskey crash as a category? No, not as a category.
Right.
And in that opening that's created, I think we'll see the healthy explosion of 2 categories that are close to my own heart, which are independent bottling and blending. Does that make sense?
Right.
And so
absolutely,
I sort of feel allergic to this like doom and gloom approach to anything.
Right.
It's just the reality of business and how the world works. And you got to be ready to pivot in the next 5-10 years.
Right. And I think it also puts a lot of fear mongering in that. And this is not a political podcast at all, so don't go there. But it's an election year.
Yeah.
There's all these things. There's a lot of things up in the air. Everybody freaking out. Everybody thought the eclipse was going to be the end of the world. You know, that sort of thing. So you have a lot of fear mongering out there.
Hang on. Who thought the eclipse was going to be the end of the world? What are we, Mayans?
A lot of people, bro.
What?
A lot. Absolutely.
How did I not know this? What are you talking about?
Okay. So I'm not the guru of this part either, but at the same time, like they're basically saying that there was a lot of things lining up to where it was like the trumpet sound and Jesus coming back and all of that stuff. I mean, because
who's the they you're talking about?
I can't say because a lot of other people that I don't know personally, and this is all hearsay. So
are they Are they all like Mayan and Aztec?
No, they're not. No, they're not. They're moonshiners in their shed. No, I'm joking.
That's
No, no,
sorry.
no,
Carry on.
no.
I hadn't ever heard that.
No. I mean, it's been going around a little bit. Maybe just in my circles. I guess it depends upon what you search out natural therapy, for natural pathology, and then next thing you know, you're going deep.
I feel like there's a great business opportunity there to find those people and be like, look, just give me all your stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not going to need it in like a week.
Yeah, absolutely. You're all going to die. It's fine. Just give me your stuff. I need your ham radios and your MREs the 25 years of MREs that you have set
and
aside.
300 cans of corn.
Yeah, and all your really good moonshine that you made, supposedly, Anyway,
so carry on. You're saying the doom and gloom of the category.
Yeah. So sorry, that got way off. It's fine. So it makes it to where like people don't want to go out and buy because of that. But like I have personally in my own collection, if you want to call that, seen a craft boom because like I seek out all of these the smaller distilleries. I'm not going for the big guys. I'm going for the smaller guys that I know are doing really cool stuff. And I'm hoping that is turning other people towards that as well. Because like the craft movement is pretty big. And like, we just got off the Texas Whiskey Festival. Texas whiskey is doing amazing things right now.
Yeah.
Like we can talk about that. That's a whole nother episode in itself. But just the fact, not only Texas bourbon, but Texas single malt and Texas rye. And I mean, Shire just released their rye and it's amazing. It's good stuff. Like everybody, they're just doing really amazing things. Like I feel like Texas is coming into its prime.
Oh yeah.
Because everybody has enough years on them now.
It's going to be? It's going to be the second generation of Texas distillers that show us what we're all capable of.
Absolutely.
It's going to be the kids of Jared Hempstead and the kids of the Licorishes and the kids of, you know what I mean? That's going to be who shows us what's possible. When I was in music, I used to teach in workshops about how to make it as an independent musician. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I always said was, if you want to be rich, there are way better ways to do it. And if you want to be famous, there are way faster ways to do it. But if you want to make a teacher's salary doing something that you love and rent houses and drive used cars, but do something you love for a living, you've never lived at a better time than now as a musician. If you want to be a working musician who's not rich or famous, but who does what they love for a living, you are living in the golden era, my friend. And that's what I believe about craft whiskey. I think if you want to be rich and you want to be famous, or you want to sell off your distillery and sail off into the sunset on your yacht, you're fucked. But if you, instead of working in retail or getting a cubicle job or fill in the blank, want to make whiskey for a living and have a decent salary and rent houses and drive used cars, you can do that. It's possible.
Right. It is. Okay. So with the little bit of time that we have left, I don't want to keep you all night. Go through a little bit of, we're shifting gears completely. Go through a little bit of because I've had multiple people ask me what it's like to be a whiskey sommelier, and kind of go through a little bit of that process for us. I've kind of given them the overview, but if you want to give them the behind the scenes stuff, not giving away anything, but kind of go into that.
So that's I'm going to try to answer the question as asked.
Okay.
But our graduates of the sommelier program have done everything from using it to build their consulting business or their other business as a way to connect with clients, to starting a distillery, to becoming blenders, to being brand reps, to working in retail stores. And so the footpath of a whiskey sommelier covers vast territory.
Right.
So I'm trying to answer the question as asked. I think the difference between anybody else and a whiskey somm in that role is that while we fulfill the role that's required of us in a specific situation, we're always focused on story and education and on a humble understanding of what you're experiencing by yourself and with others.
Okay. That is the perfect explanation of it, because when and not to toot my own horn or anything, but when I started this podcast, the whole point of it was to be a little guiding light of whiskey for people. Like, if they needed to learn about stuff, obviously not giving away trade secrets or anything like that, but helping people in their whiskey journey, your guide to the spirit world. That was the whole premise of it, was to tell a cool story, was to talk about real life shit that's happening. And this is what's happening in the whiskey world. We got to deal with this and we got to come through it. And I feel like what the way that you put it is there's everybody from entrepreneurs to distilleries to people just being brand reps that are doing this. And it's not one niche thing. It's not like we're up on some pedestal of the hierarchy is there and we're shouting out whiskey knowledge to everybody. It's we're all trying to meet on a level playing field and talk about things where meet people where they are. Is that correct?
Yeah, and to be fully present in your own current experiences so that your understanding of it helps you communicate that to the people around you instead of just know things.
Right. Because it's one thing to know a lot about whiskey. There's people that know a lot about whiskey. There's people that know so much about a specific brand that I'm how do you even know that? I've done research on this and I don't even know that. I do in-depth research on these distilleries and brands, and I'm you came up with shit that I've never heard of.
Well, those are people who are Buffalo Trace stalkers.
Yeah, exactly. And I have so much help, and I'm thankful for all the people who have helped me along the way, including yourself, that have helped me along the way to build this into what it is. And then you get people like Scott Thompson and Zach Smith and all of these people that are just fountains of knowledge out of nowhere. They're just just here, take some of this, and you're cool, I'll take that, and then you try to befuddle it and make it into your own thing. That's kind of what we're about. And it's all about your perspective of whiskey and your perspective of life, and going through that change again, like I said, the change of all of this. So that to me is really cool, how you're not putting it into you're a doctorate. You have a doctorate in whiskey or something like that. It's more we know just enough.
Yeah. No, and I think there's a lot of amazing education programs out there. Great ones. A lot of them that do things that we'll never do and have no intention of doing. And I think each program is designed based on how they educate and test to produce what they educate and test for.
Right.
And so I love the fact that you can choose your journey in whiskey and in the industry, and then you can look for the education program and the knowledge and the studying that furthers you down your path. We didn't have options, man. When we started whiskey marketing school, there was the early days of Moonshine U and Bourbon Steward. There was WSET and the wine quartermaster, but spirits focused. There was like the Whiskey Ambassador program came in somewhere around those times. There was hardly anything. Now there are a dozen programs, and many of them are amazing. So if you want to further your education, like, man, again, you're living in a golden era.
Absolutely. Okay, one last question. Since I know you're a music buff and a musician at heart, what is I'm doing a secondary episode. I did a whiskey and music podcast.
Yes.
And now I'm doing a secondary one, which whiskey drinking music, like the one that you want to sit on the back porch, listen to some music and have a jam. So give me, and I know yours are going to be a little off the wall. No shame. But what are yours?
Oh man, that's like,
I know. It's like picking kids.
That's hard. That is hard. Let me give you 4 in totally different directions. Leonard Cohen.
Okay.
Tom Waits. And I would put those 2 in the same category, actually. Elbow. And Sigur Rós.
Okay, so I don't know the last one.
Sigurros. It's an Icelandic band who made up their own language and records all their music with their own language.
Of course. It couldn't be Tool. Like, you couldn't have put Tool out there or something like that.
No, man. When I get to those bands, which I truly love, a lot of those bands.
Okay.
Like, that's not a sit back and drink whiskey band. That's a screw you, drive down the road rock and roll band.
Okay.
Yeah. So no, I'm trying to specifically think something I would hit play and then sit back with a glass of whiskey. Okay.
I mean, those are perfect, because I've asked a bunch of people, and I've got all gamuts of genres, everything from Garth Brooks to freaking Rage Against the Machine. It's like,
which again, both of those are great.
Absolutely. Like you got tear in your beer, or you got like, let's go, fuck some shit up. So it's like, it's kind of how you want to look at it. But there is, and I'm always talking about, and I know you are as well, about controlled consumption and stuff like that. So like, trying not to be the angry drunk, that type of part. But at the same time, like, there's some of those where you're like, okay, this makes me want to break something. So,
okay, okay, here's the thing for you. One of my favorite things is this thing that my dad came up with, which is 3 or 4 of us, 5 of us, 6 of us sitting around a table, cigars and whiskey, and a speaker, like a JBL or just a portable speaker. And somebody's device is connected to the speaker. And someone creates a next playing playlist and picks one song. And then you hand it to the left. And the next person adds a song. And then you hand it to the left. And you just work your way around the table. And everybody just one by one, no rules.
Right.
The next song. And what you end up creating is a custom playlist to hang out to based on the group at the table and the mood you're feeling right now. And
absolutely.
And then you can save it as the playlist from this night. And it's absolutely really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. That is really fun, because like we've talked about multiple times, whiskey is conversational, but it's also situational. So like, you could be drinking the worst whiskey at the best time and it tastes great, or you can be drinking the best whiskey at the worst time and it tastes like crap. So it's all situational, but at the same time, like, having a good dram with good people, listening to good music. I mean, there's really nothing better in life. Like that to me is pretty awesome. I don't listen to enough music while drinking. Normally, while I'm having a dram at the house or whatever, we're watching TV, I'm sitting down relaxing or something like that. And I'm just, smelling, nosing, tasting the whiskey, not writing it down, not doing research on it. I'm just enjoying the whiskey for what it is. Right. I mean, that in itself is great as well. But there's something about sitting on the back deck and just, especially now that it's getting a little warmer outside and you can actually do that. Absolutely. I should be sitting outside right now too, but I didn't do that because the Wi-Fi sucks around here.
Hey, that's real.
Yeah, absolutely. That is real.
All right,
Daniel.
What is the weirdest moment you've worn your Somm medallion and like really had people go, "What in the world is that?"
Okay. This is a good question because people don't ask these questions, so that's great. So I just became a Somm 2, and I was doing a whiskey tasting for a group it was a wedding rehearsal, so it was a rehearsal dinner, and this company had paid me. I mean, I actually got paid to do it, to come and do a whiskey tasting for them. And they had set out all these whiskeys, and they were all Texas whiskeys, which I was like, great, this is awesome. The people were not from Texas. They were just getting married here. Fredericksburg is a huge, wedding destination with all the wineries and stuff like that. So I was at this really cool winery, cool backdrop, all the stuff. And they said, wear all your accoutrements, do all the things you got to do. So I had a Scully, because I'm a pearl snap guy. I had my Scully pearl snap on, which was freaking hot. It was long sleeve, but I didn't want to show the tat. So I was long sleeve, and I had my necklace on. And this guy walked up the first rattle out the box, and he goes, "What's up, Flavor Flav?" Oh, shit. So I was like, do I take it off? Like, am I making people feel weird? And then this elderly, I say elderly, she was older lady, came up and she goes, "What is that necklace you're wearing? That is so beautiful." And I told her about it, and she goes, "It's very large." I said, "Yes, ma'am, it is." I said, "It's rather heavy as well." And she's like, "Well, it looks really nice on you." So I left it for the rest of the night because I was like, this old lady likes it. I'm good to go. And it was a great night, and we poured a lot.
I love that you can possibly wear that thing and not be humbled by it.
Absolutely. I was just like,
because I feel like that's the point of it.
Absolutely.
Just like put it on and then just be like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm a dumbass. I'm sorry.
I'm a dork, and that's fine.
but that's part of it, like not taking the whiskey so serious. Like, it doesn't matter. It's freaking whiskey. Like, just drink it and shut up. Shut up and drink the damn whiskey. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. Like, I can sit here and preach to you about proof and how that thing was distilled and blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, do you like it or not? I don't care. I mean, I do care. I do care if you like it. But it doesn't make my lifestyle go any higher or anything like that. Like, it is what it is. So that's one of the things that the sommelier program, and kudos to you on that, has made me feel. It's like, don't take it so serious. It is what it is. If you want to nerd out on it, we can nerd out on it. I can tell you the master, I can do all the things with it. But if you just want to drink some cool whiskey, let's go. So that's the thing that I have got out of it, and I can't wait to further that communication as well, because I know that the more you get into it, the more you learn, and the more you grow from this. And I know you as well are still growing in this, and it's just really cool. It's really cool.
Are you drinking again right now?
I am.
What are you drinking tonight?
No, I'm not. I'm having water tonight. No, I tried it. I've always been on the thing where, like, I try to drink. I'll have 1 or 2 drams on the weekend. I'm trying to get back to work and all that stuff, so I don't want to kind of encumber that at all. But but yeah, no, I'm back. I hate to say back drinking, but you know what I mean. I took an 11 or 12-week sabbatical,
Yeah.
so it really reset my palate. And of course, I couldn't taste anything anyway. There was a time during chemo, and I'm sure all the people have already heard this, but I was having to put buffalo sauce. Like my wife, you know, we went all keto, organical type things, and it was this plant-based buffalo sauce. I was putting it on literally everything, like, you know, like my water, you know, just so I could taste something. And so that was difficult, but like I've slowly developed my palate back. And the other day I did a review on the Rio, the Penelope Rio.
Yeah.
Just because somebody gave me a sample of it and I said, hey, this is a cool, different thing. It was really good, actually. Like, I enjoyed it. But, you know, so like I was able to pick all that stuff out. But yeah, it's still developing and still growing, which I'm excited about. I got into a peated whiskey the other day and I was like, whoa, that's different. I wasn't expecting that. Like, it's really cool to see all the new stuff that I'm running into. So it's nice. Cool. Yeah, no, it's really nice. All right. So I'm going to wrap it up right here. And I really appreciate you coming on here. And I know we had to make it. I know we had to make it work. And I appreciate you making it work with me. And yeah, if you want, I don't know if you want to do this or not, but go ahead and give any social media that you want anybody to follow. Not that they're not already following anything you're doing, but.
Oh, I'll tell you this. How about this? By the time this comes out, we will have just launched the Bonafide Texas Whiskey Enthusiast.
Oh, shit.
So I built a program called the Bonafide Whiskey Enthusiast Program, and it's an online program for whiskey education. And for the last 8 months, I've been designing the Texas version. And all it does is it takes the existing Bonafide program and it adds onto it 8 videos about the Texas whiskey industry. Mm-hmm. And by 8, I mean I shot like 6 main videos and then like 37 videos that are like 20 to 30 seconds each about every single distillery in the Texas Whiskey Association. And so you finish this online program and you've been introduced to every whiskey distillery in the association and the trail, the history of the trail, the history of Texas whiskey, the terroir of Texas. And then I'm going to be adding another 30 distilleries who are not in the association, but who are making whiskey in Texas.
Wow. That's freaking awesome. That is really cool. I can't wait for that. Yeah, that's really cool. Because Texas whiskey isn't just about the ones that are well known. It's about the little mom and pop guys that are doing stuff like, you know, I ran into some at the whiskey festival. I was like, I've never heard of you guys. Hey, how are you? You know, like you kind of get drawn to those.
Johnny Pickles and Hush and Whisper and
yeah.
Like, who are these guys?
Absolutely. Like, I love Balcones. I love Iron Root. I love all those guys. But at the same time, I'm like, who are you? Let's talk to you for a second. Like, one that's been there for a minute that I really didn't give a whole lot of time to was Iron Wolf.
Yeah, and here's the thing. They were sourcing and doing a bunch of flavored stuff, but now they're doing a lot of their own things.
They are.
And you know what's really cool about the Texas craft industry right now is that for years, the standard generic format of a craft distiller was start, source things, finally make your own stuff.
Right.
All of these new distillers showing up in Texas, I mean, I've added 6 that I had to shoot videos for that I'd never heard of when we were building this program.
Oh, wow.
They've all opened within the last like 3 years. All of them are only making their own whiskey. All of them. Wow. Not a single one of them is sourcing. That's awesome. That's a whole new thing. That's a whole new trend that's happening. And it's very cool.
It is. It really is. All right, brother. Well, I appreciate you coming on here, and I thank you very much for your time. and we'll have to do this again soon. But what was I going to say? I lost it. It's fine.
I will see you next in the vault.
Absolutely. Until next.